Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Hands on SAP Dev, the first that I'm doing in 2021. Of course, Tom did one earlier this week, but it's my first one. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining. It's really weird. The last Hands on SAP Dev episode that I did was early December, I guess. Was it before TechEd? Yeah, I think it was before TechEd. So it just feels like I've not done anything. I've never done it before. So what's going on? What do I need to do? So welcome. Thank you so much for joining. It's great. I'm very excited to be back with you all. I've got my coffee. What I don't have is any biscuits. That was a bad fail on my part. In fact, Andrew recommended I get some shortbread biscuits, which I did, but I've eaten them all, so that's no good. So welcome. Okay, so welcome Helmut, welcome Phil, Tanmoy, Ronnie, Napit, Kaloyan, Ankit, Leo, Jodel, Manuel, Phil. I've said you, Phil, already, haven't I? Dennis, and yeah, there we. Oh, we've missed you. I've missed you too. I've missed you too. It's great to be back. No bickies, exactly. I know, Phil. What's going on? But I've got my Awarth at 8 a.m. mug, which is good, full of coffee, and it's very frosty out there. Which I'm looking. My sister Katie, who I run with sometimes, she said, "Oh, have you got a bit of a chance to go for a run this morning?" I said, "Well, after the live stream." So I'm having a coffee. I've got my running kit underneath here. I was going to do this in my running kit, but I thought, no, it's not going to do that. Anyway, so thank you so much for. Yeah, I love shortbreads. Coffee's quite good, actually. Yes, coffee. Right, so what have we got in store? This is going to be the first of a number of live stream episodes that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to still do, in this year, I'm going to still do my live streams on Friday. It might not necessarily be every Friday. I might not be doing one next week. But basically, it's always going to be the same time as I've always done it. Friday morning for me, 8 a.m. GMT. Hey, Garav, hello. And Shahid, the topic. Yes, I did finish the biscuits. The topic is In fact, let me switch to the main scene. The topic is the developer keynote repository contents and getting set up for that. I'll come to that very shortly. You tried the link. Morning, James Hale. Welcome, James Hale, to the house. Morning. You tried which link did you try, Phil? In which post? I write so much rubbish that I'm not sure which post you mean. Samuele, good morning, Hawkeye. Glad to see you. Glad to see you all. It's fantastic. So Phil, let me know in the chat which Dommy, good morning as well. My goodness me. Fork it. Yes, exactly, Ronnie. I don't know. Good morning, Ivona. Good morning. Just remove the end bracket and works well. Okay. Was it some sort of rendering, hypertext rendering thing in the blog post? I have no idea. I don't know what I'm talking about. But anyway, so the subject of today is the SAP TechEd 2020 Developer Keynote. As you know, hopefully all of you have seen that. If you go to the Developer Keynote, in fact, I did try and get my little chat thing. I've got the user. I've got my monitor of the studio over here, so I can type things in, but I can't copy paste. So if somebody can please paste in this link to the Developer Keynote repository, for those who don't know where it is, this is what it's all about. And in this repository, just here, I've put a link to the YouTube video. So there's a recording. Let me just click on that as well. You can see where it's going to go. There's a recording of the keynote that goes straight there, but there's also some awesome introduction from Menina and Max, and the recap, and also an interview with Phil, and all sorts of things in this particular YouTube video. So there's sections like that. So that's there's a link there to that. There's also a link in the overview as well. There's the replay, and also there's a bit of a background story link, and also and lots of different things. So yeah, if somebody can please post the link to this, otherwise I'll just type it in there. But you don't want to see me typing on a different keyboard. That would be awesome. So this episode, to go back to your question, Shahid, this episode is all about getting set up with this repo. Now, why do you want to get set up with this repo? It's because we deliberately, and this is, the repo is a collection of work from all of the developer advocates. We're preparing for the keynote. We deliberately built things so that it would be reproducible and everything is doable in a trial, cloud platform sub-account, so you can all do it. And we've added some documentation and some guides over the last few weeks and everything. So we're still adding to it. But basically, thank you, Tanmoy. Oh, done. Maybe it's been filtered out. Hold on a second. GitHub.com. Well, thank you, Tanmoy. Anyway, SAP samples developer. Oh no, what is it called? TechEd 2020 developer keynote. That's the one. That should be the one. Let me know if that works. So that's the place you should go. What I did. I've got this little script, but it's not pulling up the list, the actual link here. But anyway, I don't know. So I had this little chat thing I do on here. But anyway, that's fine. Oh, there we go. Right. So so we've built the repo so that everybody can look at the code, look at the content, look at the configuration, see how it's done, see what we did, and do it yourself, right? So there's a lot of stuff. This repo, if you take it if you come at it from the wrong angle, it might appear a little bit overwhelming. So, it's all about us taking our time and setting up to do all the stuff in the repo over the next few weeks. Okay. The link is in the description. Yes, it is. Thank you, Ronnie. The link is in the description of the YouTube video of this particular live stream. Thank you very much. There we go. Okay, so just a brief overview. Then I want to sort of give you a 10,000 feet view, and then we're going to start diving in, setting up. Okay, so basically the main README is this thing here, right? So the SAP TechEd 2020 Developer Keynote. It's here. There's all sorts of stuff, and if you've seen the video itself, you'll see this sort of famous whiteboard, which is just in the other room. That's my wife Michelle's whiteboard, actually. So I had to destroy all the stuff that she had on it to write this. And what we're going to be doing is, over the course of the next few weeks, doing all these bits, building all these bits, deploying them, getting them talking to each other, and so on. Okay. And these are what we decided to call all these sort of boxes are components. Okay, I don't want to use this overloaded term deliberately, but components is as good enough a word as any. The link is broken. Oh, okay. 1 second. Let's have a look. Is this is the one? Is it? Is this what you're talking about? Whoa. Ooh. Okay, that's interesting. Okay. Good morning, Sebastiano. Good morning, Sebastiano. That's interesting. That is weird. I don't know why YouTube's done that. Anyway, I'm not going to try and edit that here. I don't want to waste your time doing that. Go to the link I've put in the chat now. That should be fine. So we've divided up the repo into all these different components. Okay, so the components is, sandbox, the emitter, the sandbox, which is this thing here, the sort of proxy to the mock services on the API Business Hub, Business API Hub. The emitter, the shell script that throws messages up into the air. The brain, the cat-based thing that sits in the middle. The charity component on the ABAP Steampunk stack. Rich's thing, and the thing that Kevin did in the video, which is the converter and marries his front end and all these different things. So good morning, Nappy. Oh, I've said good morning to you. I'm so excited. It's the coffee, I think, as well. But anyway. So these are all the different components, and over the course of the week, we're going to be going through the components and setting them all up. But we all need an environment to set these things up, and we all need I think we need to talk about the forking of this repo. Okay, now in order to talk about that, and in order to set up our environment so we're all the same, okay, I've got here a link. Here it is there. Quick start. If you're just looking to dive in and get going with this on your own, the quick start guide may be useful. And what we've done is put a link to, if you want to sort of follow step by step, do this, then do that, then do the other. This is the thing that you want to follow. This is basically a suggested order of things to do them in, right? Hey, Christian, good morning. Good morning. Not enough coffee yet. Goof morning. Goof morning. I like that. Goof morning. Okay. So what we're going to be doing is also assuming that we all want to use the same environment. Of course, we don't all want to use the same environment. You know, you can do this in whatever environment you want. You know, on your Windows local machine, on your Linux or your Mac OS local machine, somewhere in the cloud, doesn't matter. But what we tried to do, what I've tried to do with some of the documentation here is say, well, let's sort of have a level playing field so everybody can participate regardless of their circumstances. You know, some people have locked down laptops and everything. Some people can't install Docker, all these different things. And let's explore the Business Application Studio. So the Business Application Studio, we can do everything in that. So I'm going to be taking you through setting things up in the Business Application Studio as our development environment, okay? Burak, good morning. Adams Hamzat. Do I say, no, you've not missed very much. Do I say Hamzat or do I say Adams? Let me know. So welcome anyway. So, and I'll talk about the development environment in this particular, let's go to this particular thing here. Development environment, where is it? There we go. We need an development environment, and you know, we've got some App Studio set up. Okay, so let's get started. Now, the thing we'll do first is make sure we've got an SAP Cloud Platform trial account. I'm not going to set one up now. So the SAP, the set your Cloud Platform trial account, what we need, okay, is a trial account. Okay, fine. A Cloud Foundry environment, and when you set a Cloud Platform trial account up, you automatically get a Cloud Foundry environment set up for you. Okay, you got an org and a single dev space, which is fine. Little note on here about the CF command. We're using the CF version 6. There is a version 7, but there's a bit of an issue with version 7 with CF end, so we're sticking with version 6. Most people have version 6. Anyway, and also you'll want to set up your Keyma environment. As you saw in the video, in the keynote, we ran things in Keyma as well as in Cloud Foundry. So this is a little note about Keyma. So basically, in this particular first step, you've got to set up your SAP Cloud Platform trial account. Now, I've got one over here. I've just created a user and I've got a trial account here. Let's go into that right now. And you'll see that it's, you know, nothing up my sleeve. Well, there's a running kit up my sleeve. I've got a Cloud Foundry environment. I've got a dev space. There's nothing in it, no applications, no service instances. And I've also set up a Keyma environment, okay? There's a link in the repo instructions. Where are we? There we go. Follow this tutorial for detailed instructions, installing the Kubernetes command line tool, but don't worry about installing it yourself. We'll do that shortly together. Adams, okay, first name Adams. Okay, welcome Adams. Thank you for letting me know. So yeah, we'll do that shortly as well. The one thing you will have to do in the tutorial is set up the Keyma environment. So you'll say enable Keyma, bang, and you know wait a short while, and it'll be set up for you. But what you also need to remember to do, and the tutorial will tell you how to do this, is you need to give yourself create a role collection. Okay, I've got a role collection here, and I called it, what did I call it? Keyma, and I added the two items: Keyma runtime namespace admin and Keyma runtime namespace developer. And I added the role collection to me, to the user that is this trial account user here, which I'm going to destroy at the end of this thing. You just enable Keyma, okay. It took a while for me, Phil, but don't worry because we're not going to be doing anything with the Keyma on this particular episode. We'll do it in the next episode, right? So you'll need to do that, and then once you've got that, you can go back to your trial, and you can go straight into the dashboard, which looks like this. Okay, so everything sort of from a cloud platform trial account perspective, I've got everything set up. So you'll want to do the same sort of thing. Okay, so what next? Let's go back to here, and what we really want to do is make sure as well that it should be fine, but let's just make sure that you've got access to the SAP Business API Hub, and specifically you can find the things that we dealt with in the developer keynote. Okay, so we've got a document here. Check access to the SAP Business API Hub. So basically the idea is you'll go through this quick start, click on the first link, do the things, come back, click on the second link, do the things, come back, and so on. So hopefully that's going to be a nice way for us all to go through it. Okay, so this here, access to the SAP Business API Hub. Make sure you can log into the SAP Business API. I'm going to copy the link. So basically, I've got this repo here. This is the one I'm going to be going through until for the next 15 minutes. I'm going to be going through the repo. Okay, the repo, the source of truth repository, which is on the SAP samples organization on GitHub. You will have forked this repo. Lots of people. In fact, James, you joined the chat, and also you recently forked it, right? I got a little notification. Woo! My auto tweeter, powered by GitHub Actions, told everybody that you forked it, which is awesome. So lots of people have. We'll come to that shortly. Okay, and we'll talk about forking, and we'll talk about keeping your fork up to date. We're going to go through it all together. Can anybody think of the reason? I've written it down somewhere, but can anybody figure out the reason why you might want to fork a repo rather than just work from the SAP samples repo? Just type things in the chat. Let's see. Let's have a think. In the meantime, let's just go across here. I'm going to open up a new tab. Go to the api.sap.com, and let's make sure we can log on. Let's click on the log on button. There we go. Hi, Blue. Right, fine. Thanks for this session. It's a great overview. How to navigate to SAP Cloud Platform. Fantastic. Yes, Lewis, and welcome as well. Welcome. Is that how to pronounce your name? Lewis? Sorry, I'm rubbish. I've been wanting to click on this launch beta. Maybe we'll do that together, right? I didn't want to sort of, mess things up for the screenshots and everything so far and confuse everybody, but maybe we'll do the launch beta next time. Oh, exciting. The beta enhanced look and features. So we've got access to the API Business Hub, and specifically, okay, if you remember in the keynote, in the developer keynote, we accessed a couple of endpoints, a couple of APIs, the sales order API, and that was accessed by the brain, and also the charity component, Rich's charity component, but also Rich accessed the business partner OData API endpoint as well. Okay, so in order to check whether we've got access to things, where is it gone? Let's just have a look here. Here's the link here. Let's make sure we've got access to the sales order A2X API. Let's go across here and put that in there. Okay, so this is still within the API Business Hub. This is the sales order API that we used. Okay, and the other thing that we want to check we've got access to, check also you have the ability to download API specifications to that same API, and that thing is just here on the details. Okay, download API specification, and we can download the EDMX file, which is basically the metadata file, because this is an OData service, and do cool stuff with it. Okay, which we'll do in a upcoming episode. So Tanmoy, you're saying fork creates a copy of the original source, and then we can clone it to the local environment using the remote relationship. Perfect. But also, one of the reasons we're getting you to fork this repository is because we're going to be using, and what we've set up for you is the ability to build the Docker images, which can then be pulled into the Keynote environment using GitHub Actions. If you haven't got Docker, if you don't want to install Docker, if you can't install Docker for whatever reason, as in the Docker engine, not the Docker client, we can use GitHub Actions. And of course, we can use not only GitHub Actions, but we can also use the GitHub package repository to store your images that the Kima runtime can go and pull them from. Okay, we need to store the images somewhere. So the use of actions and the building and storing, the subsequent storing of the images in a registry, in a Docker image registry, the GitHub-based Docker image registry, needs, of course, to be associated with your own repo. You can't go and store it in the SAP samples org repo. It'd be a free-for-all, it'd be crazy, right? So you get to do it in your own. That's why we want you to fork the repo rather than just, clone it. Did I see you get 400 bad requests when you log in? Is that when you log into the API Hub? There has been issues that I've encountered, not recently, but nevertheless I've encountered them relating to cookies. So make sure if you do get that sort of thing, remove all the cookies and try that again, Phil. Also try it in a different browser as well. That might help as well. So Ronnie says, another feature of the fork is that it keeps a connection to the original repo. Great for submitting pull requests. Exactly, Ronnie. Okay, this is all about social coding. This is all about collaboration. That is actually the best answer from Ronnie there. Perfect. Much better than my. Well, I mean, my reason was a technical answer. You can't put something into a registry that related to a repo that's not yours. So you need that technically. But yeah, that's a great reason. And Jodelle says, goodbye, BAPI Explorer. Hello, API Business Hub. Exactly. Why has nobody ever said that before? Yes. Well said, Jodelle. Well said. So we can download the EDMX specification. There we go. API sales order. That's fine. We're not going to download that yet. We just want to make sure we can get to the download part. And also what it says here is check that you have an API key available to you in your preferences. Okay. If you remember, if you did watch the developer keynote, I keep wanting to make sure I say the developer keynote, not the keynote, of course, not Jürgen Müller's keynote, but the developer keynote. Okay, so if I say keynote, I mean the developer keynote. In the developer keynote, when we try to access the mock service, the API sales order service that the API sandbox system provided for us, which is cool, we got an error. And it said you've got to authenticate every request with an API key. So this is what this is all about. In your preferences, so if I click on the link, the preferences link there, go across to here and have a look, that you get from here, right? Preferences, bang, here. And I'm not going to click on this button because you'll see my API key, even though I'm going to destroy this, this whole setup shortly. But anyway, okay, you had to register. Okay, fun, that's cool. Nice one, Phil. Hey, Robertino, howdy, 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 howdy. So you want to be able to get to this, so you can click on the show API key. That'll give you a long, opaque string, which is your API key that you'll need later on. Not in this particular episode, but later on. So we're all set up now with the access to the SAP API Business Hub, the Business API Hub, sorry. God, I'm getting tongue-tied. I'm going to slow down and have some more coffee. It's okay. So the next thing to do, okay, in this quick start thing, is to fork this repository. Okay, so I'm going to do that together. I'm going to do it slowly to make sure that we understand what's going on. I know a lot of you have forked it already. In fact, how many people have forked it already? 68. Yes. Good work, people. However, if you were super keen and forked it when I started telling people suggesting people fork it back in December, since December, we've added a lot of updates to this repo. So how do you keep your repo up to date? That's this whole thing, right? And I've got a blog post that talks about that, but we're going to do it together, okay? Just to make sure. So let's do that now. So fork this repository to your own account on GitHub. Let's click this link now. And this is sort of what I was referring to here, right? So we want to fork this repository, the SAP samples.org repository, into our own space. Now, if I open up github.com qmacro, that's me, and look at my list of repositories, oh my God, what a horrible face. Look at the list of repositories. I haven't got the TechEd 2020 Developer Keynote repository in my space, in my qmacro space, okay? So I'm going to do it, okay? However, rather than fork it now, which would, not be problematic, I would have all the updates that exist as the source repo, as the SAP samples repo stands right now, which is what we want. I'm going to pretend that I forked it back in December, okay? So what I'm going to do is, and does this make sense, by the way? Is everybody following? I'm going to pretend I forked it, not by saying, okay, fork, okay, this is what you would normally do. Fork it to qmacro. Yes, please. I'm going to fork that. And I get the complete update. What I'm going to do instead, just for the purposes of demonstration, is I'm going to look at the list of forks, which is there. So Abap Weasel, Abdul Basit has forked it as well. I don't think this is in sort of date order. It looks like in alphabetical order. That's fine. So Ivona, you forked it. When did you fork it? Let's have a look. Tekka 2020. Let's have a look. Okay, you forked it very recently. Okay, so in fact, I'm going to choose Abdul Basit. Why not? Okay, so Abdul Basit did a fork, and there we go. That's a perfect example. Okay, so here is Abdul Basit's fork, and he forked that a while ago because it's 189 commits behind SAP samples. Okay, so since Abdul Basit forked it, there's been 189 commits to the SAP samples repository. So what I'll do is I'll set up now a repo, my own repo in QMacro, sort of copying Abdul Basit's fork. Okay, so what I'll do, I've got a little script here. Do we need all? Yes. Okay. So if I look at here, in fact, I'll show you where it is. Right in this repository. Let's go back to the SAP samples one. Right in here, and refer to in that fork blog post that I wrote. In here, I've got a couple of utils. I've got a setup util that sets up the scenario where I've got an out-of-date fork, which is this one-setup script. And then what I'm going to do is run the 2-clone and update to update my fork. Okay, and you can have a look at the scripts offline. That's why I stuck them in here as well. Why not share everything? That's really cool. Hopefully. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this script. Okay, the script just basically sets up a test forked repository based on an existing fork, in this case Abdul Basit's. Okay, again, I'm not going to go through this. It's very simple. That's all it is. There we go. So yeah, all right, let's go through it. We clone Abdul Basit's. We go into the clone. We remove the connection to the source repo. We create a repository in my account in QMacro, and we push all that stuff, and then we get rid of the stuff locally. Okay, so let's run that now. Okay, so let's do it in temp. Yeah, we're in temp. So if I run projects Tekka 2020 fork utils 1-setup, you'll see I need to specify a Abdul Basit. Was it Abdul Basit G? Let's go and have. Oh, somebody else has forked it. Amazing. Where are the forks? Abdul Basit G is Abdul Basit's username. Okay, so let's do that. RF Tekka that's fine. And also I've completely messed it up now. QMacro github.com QMacro Tekka 2020 settings delete. There we go. Let's delete it again. Dong dong dong. QMacro Tekka 2020 developer. Just pretend you're not seeing this. Developer Keynote. Perfect. Okay, let's do that again. So I already had a directory in there. So there we go. Let's do that again. Okay, let's do that again. Cloning in. So we're cloning Abdul Basit's fork. Okay, but we're also adding a relationship, and then we're pushing that whole thing. We're creating a repo on GitHub in my QMacro space, and we're sticking it in there. Okay. So here we go. If we wait for this to happen, I'm going to have a drink of coffee. Is everybody still with me, by the way? You've all gone very quiet on the chat. What's going on? Or are you just studying the source code of these scripts intently, which I hope you are. So once we've done this fork, yeah, perfect, 8:29. So that'll give us a nice, 25 minutes to set up the development environment on App Studio. Okay, so now the result of that should be, if I go back here, and if I look there, if I go back to QMacro, you will now see that I've got, come on, Tekka 2020 developer keynote updated 18 seconds ago. However, like Abdul Basit's, the last update in my fork relating to what happened in the SAP samples version was back in December, early December. Okay, so that is a situation that many of you may have if you've forked it early. Okay, so we're starting there. You're waiting for the magic to happen. You mean there's no magic happening already, Jodelle? Okay, that's cool. Thank you, Jodelle, for letting us know. So this is now me. So Q Macro, Teca 2020, Developer Keynote. Now, in order to bring this repository up to date, I'm going to run this other script. Let me show you what it is. And this is described in that blog post. That is also, the blog post is also, where is it? Also linked from the main README. There we go. Updating your fork of the Developer Keynote repository. Let's bring that in here. Updating your fork. I think some of you may have seen this already. So this describes what we're about to do. And look at that. Now if that is not like super skillful GIF magic, I don't know what is. I'm very proud of that little GIF thing there. So this is what we're about to do now. Okay. But I've encapsulated it all into a script. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to clone the new test fork. So I've got the Q Macro, the out-of-date Q Macro repository, right, which I've got by copying Abdul Bassett's fork. I'm going to clone it. Okay, let's do that. Let's do it here, right? We're going to clone it. We're going to go into the clone. We're going to add the SAP samples repository as an upstream. Okay. Then we're going to list what remotes we've got. We should have a remote pointing to upstream, which we've just added, but we should also have the remote pointing to the GitHub one, my Q Macro one, the origin. We're going to pull the updates from upstream, and then which will merge them, right? And then we're going to push all that merged stuff to origin, which is to Q Macro. That's all we're going to do. Okay, so let's run that. We've got that there. So if we run this, yeah, let's run it. Let's do this clear screen. Let's go back here to there, clone and update. So we're going to do all those things. So we're going to clone my Q Macro repository, Q Macro Teca 2020 repository. That there, those two origin lines and two upstream lines are the result of me doing showing the remote, git remote -v, verbose remote. Let's have a quick look at there we go. Where is it? There. So we can see that we've got the pointer to where this clone came from, which is Q Macro Teca 2020. But we've now added a pointer to where the upstream, basically the SAP sample stuff, which has got all the updates, right? We're adding the upstream remote. Okay. And then we've got down here all the updates since then, since the 8th of December, right? And now we're pushing, it's all been merged locally on my machine here. And as you can see down here, look, 189 ready to push up. 189 commits need to go up. Was it 189 on the thing? In fact, if we looked at Abdul Bassett's, I'm sure I saw 100. Yeah, this branch is 189 commits behind SAP samples. Never noticed that before. But yes, okay, so that 189 commits behind is exactly what we're seeing down here. 189 commits need to go up, okay? So we're pushing that up. Writing, fatal, remote, end, hung up, unexpected. Ooh, let's have a look. Let's have a look at my thing here. Let's refresh. Let's do that again. Let's go back here. The last thing was git push origin main. Git remote -v. There we go. So git push origin main. Let's try that again. Mistakes and things going wrong is good, right? Okay, so we've now pushed, that push worked this time, okay? We've now pushed all those merged changes, which are local to here, up to the origin, which is the Q Macro Teca 2020, okay? So now if we go here, let's refresh this now. This is the Q Macro Teca 2020, hopefully. There we go. We're up to date. Okay, so the latest commit I made, earlier this morning when I was preparing, I just added another link to the README. We've got it in my previously out of date, but now super up to date fork. And you can go through that process, you know, the process of pulling down from upstream. So this process basically, where are we? Let's have a look at that. Basically, you can still do the pull from upstream, and that will get merged, and you can push to origin. You can do that, you know, again and again. Okay, so that hopefully, let me know if that sort of explains, you know, what to do, why to do it, how it works. So now we should be ready to continue on with not the SAP samples TechEd 2020. I'm just going to say TechEd 2020 rather than the whole name. I'm regretting that we called it that, but anyway, instead of using the SAP samples one, I'm going to now start working with my own fork of it. Okay, so the Q macro TechEd 2020. Okay, so let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. There we go. Was that okay? Good. Now, 8:36. Okay, I have no idea. I'm saying 1 minute over, but as if I was timing this. I have no idea. No idea what I'm doing. Nothing changes, does it? So let's go back to the quick start guide. So Adams, my head just ding dong. It's clear I haven't got to this level. Still learning JavaScript. Actually, hope to get. Adams, we're all in this together. We're all in this together. We're all learning together, right? That's what we do here on Hands on SAP Dev. So you can watch the replay as well and everything, and look at the scripts and everything. So, and just, you know, ask questions in the comments to the video when it's published on YouTube and everything. You know, we're all friends here. Curiosity driven learning by doing. That's what this is all about. So we've forked this repository to our own account, as in, you know, I'm going to say Q macro, that's me, right? On GitHub. You've got your own now. So now we've got that. The next thing to do is we want to set up a dev space in App Studio. Now, that's because we've said it assumes that you wanted to use a App Studio. I'm going to say App Studio instead of SAP Business Application Studio now as our development environment. Because why not? Okay, we've all got access to the App Studio. So what do I mean by we've all got access to the App Studio? Well, if we go to our trial home, which is there. Thank you, expiry. We can go into our trial account, but of course, everybody with a trial account gets access to the SAP Business Application Studio, which, when you first go to it, looks like this. Now, why am I suggesting that we use the App Studio? A, because it's pretty awesome. B, because then we can all share the same sort of mental picture of what we're doing together. But maybe most importantly, and given that it's me, the App Studio gives us a proper Unix-like environment, a terminal, as well as a nice editor, and as well as the ability to use extensions, right? If you like VS Code, cool, use that. If you've got your own machine, use that as well. But we're going to be using the App Studio, you know, it's all good. So we're going to create a dev space. Now, why are we going to create a dev space? Because, let's click on this step number 4, set up a dev space. Okay. By the way, what we're trying to do as well is have a little table of contents so you can jump straight to the different things here. Let us know if this works for you. Again, any feedback on the repo at all, you know, any contributions you want to make, you know what to do, issues, pull requests, all that sort of good stuff. So, like I say, we don't want to dictate which tools or environment to use, but don't leave you stranded either. Okay, if you can't decide or you can't install tools locally, especially, you know, I know some people are not able to install things like Docker. So we've got some notes here you can read. No, I'm not going to read all this in front of you. So Sanmai is saying, is there a limitation to the number of dev spaces in App Studio in the trial version? Yes, there is. I think you can have 2, which is, of course, you know, double the amount we need for this, of course, but you might be doing other things as well. And I think you can only have 1 running at any one time. Okay. You know, so you've got to sort of manage that yourself. And if that's no good for you, then, you know, of course, use your own development environment. That's, you know, we're not trying to force you down the App Studio. But I do think it's nice to have a development environment in the cloud. Okay. So there we go. So hopefully that answers your question. Oh, now Pete's answered already. Perfect. Yes. Let's just forget WebID. Forget what? No, I mean, you know, WebID is, you know, was a wonderful, great great thing of its time. But, App Studio is, I love App Studio because it gives me a terminal. What else do you need? What else do you need? So, perform initial setup. So this here is a link to a really nice tutorial, the onboarding of the App Studio, if you want to follow it step by step. But basically, you just do what I did, which is click, into this thing here, dev spaces, and do what I'm about to do with you, which is to set up a dev space. Let's go there. So, create a dev space. Think of a dev space as an instance of the App Studio setup with specific tools and extensions. What that means is when we create it, and it also tells us here, choose the SAP Cloud Business Applications type. That's because, let's do that, create dev space. That's because when we choose it, it gives us some cool tools that we might want to use, okay? For example, the CDS tools, right? As well as other things, right? You can also pick additional extensions if you want, but you don't have to for this particular example. So the key thing is that you choose the dev space template, the dev space starter template, I'm going to call this, right? SAP Cloud Business Application. I'm going to call it hands on SAP Dev, because why not? And then I'm going to create it, okay? It takes a few seconds to create, that's fine. And while that's being created, okay, we wait for the running status. We can read the next bit, okay? So what we're going to do when it's created, we're going to go into it and we're going to use a little wizard to clone our repository. And when I say our repository, I mean, for example, my repository here, QMacro, your repository, James Hale's repository and Ronnie's repository, you all clone your own fork, okay? Oh, it did have a good run. It did have a good run. It was awesome. And, we're always learning and growing together. So, by the way, throughout, what we've tried to do here is where there's been a username specified in like a screenshot or a, what's it called? Sort of monospace font as example output, we're going to use the SAP developer username. That's just a made up username. Sometimes you'll see QMacro because it's referring to like the GitHub user, but you'll see SAP developer. That just means you. Okay. You're welcome, Adams. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Good name, by the way. Where are we? It's running. It's running. Okay. So once it's running, we can enter our dev space. Okay. Nice little load. This graphic, that little sort of animated thing, I was looking to see where it was. I was thinking it was an animated GIF. It's an inline sort of data URL. How cool is that? So what we want to do is clone your fork of this repository. And that's what it describes here. Okay. Excuse me. So it says, follow the prompts to specify the web URL for your clone, which will be something like this. So where is this URL coming from? Well, if we go to the top of the page here, well, in fact, if we go to the main page of our repo, QMacro Techer 2020, this is where we get the URL that we need to do a clone, okay? So you click on, the download green button here. I want to clone it. I don't want to download it. I want to clone it. And specifically, I want to clone it using HTTPS. So I'm going to copy that link, and that link is what we need to specify. So clone from Git, clone Git repository. And we're going to paste that in there. Have a stare at that. It looks almost like the actual URL of the repo itself, but it's just got the .git on the end. Okay, so that's it. We're going to do that. And as you can see, it opens up a little Git pane here, which is actually just a terminal, right? Everything's terminal. And it's cloned. Okay, so we've got our dev space, we've got our up-to-date fork of the SAP samples Techer 2020 repo, and we've just cloned it into our dev space in App Studio. Now, where is it? Well, of course, in the instructions here, using App Studio. What we then want to do is open that cloned thing in our workspace. Now, if we just have a look down here, oh, by the way, let me just font size. Let me update the font size. Terminal, integrated terminal. Let's put it to 18. Why not? Ooh, yes, that's better. Preferences, thank you very much. Okay, let's bring that up there. Now, as you can see here, I'm in a terminal, okay? And I've got the one true shell, bash, in my terminal. And if I list what's there, you'll see some standard directories that you get automatically, the Java 11, I was doing there, the TMP, and also projects. So if we list projects, we'll see that that is where the repo was cloned into. Okay, so there's a directory in the projects directory, which is our clone. Okay, so if we say here open workspace, we can see there that's the projects directory, which is just there, right? So that's the thing we want to open in the workspace. Open. So it just restarts the dev space, sort of reloads. Now with the Explorer here on the left-hand side, this is the Explorer here, pointing to that particular, you can see, hopefully it's not too small, /home/user, that's me, /projects, Teca 2020, developer Keynote, we're there. Okay, so far so good. The next thing we want to do is we want to open up a terminal, because why wouldn't you want a terminal? But what we're going to do in the terminal is going to run a little script that will bring in some tools that we'll need. Okay, but just to sort of not prove, just to show the effect of choosing the right sort of starter template for your dev space, we chose the SAP Cloud application. Something or other. What was it called? What was it called? SAP Cloud Business Application, right? We chose that, which gave us certain tools, including the CAP tools, but also the Cloud Foundry command line tool, CF. Okay. So if we open up a terminal, now we can say terminal, new terminal, but as you can see, there's a little shortcut here. Keyboard shortcuts are awesome. So I'm going to use Control backtick, bam, doosh, to open up a terminal. Now that means, because we've chosen a certain collection of extensions by choosing that particular type of dev space, we get tools like CF. There we go. There's the CF tool, which is really cool. But there are other tools that we're going to be using over the course of the next few episodes to install and get running and deploy and test all these different components in the repo. And that is what this next bit is. Add tools to your dev space. Okay, so it says, yeah, okay, yeah, fine. You get CF, but we're going to use JQ. JQ is a JSON query language tool. There's also YQ, which is a YAML query language tool. And there's also other bits and pieces. UUID gen, I think we're using. That's using the emitter component. So we're just bringing in these tools, okay? And all that is, right, if we have a look at the top here, all that is a little script called App Studio Setup. So there's a script in this repo that we're going to run now, okay? In fact, why don't we look at it? Fool, DJ. Why don't we look at it in the App Studio? So in here, we've got, where is it? Using App Studio, in there, we've got a script called App Studio Setup, okay? And all this does is set up a few things. Let's just run it and see what happens, and you'll look at it afterwards. So we'll go into CD using App Studio. Okay, let's clear the screen. Notice that the prompt style, which is fine, gives you a username. I think we're all called user in the sort of virtual, instance, colon, and then the current directory, the most significant part of the current directory. So we can see here the current directory is /home/user /project /teca which is of course the repo name, folder directory. Using App Studio, that's the subdirectory in there. So now we're going to run App Studio Setup. Okay, / as in here, please, because App Studio Setup is not in our path. So installing UUID gen, installing YQ, installing kubectl. How do you pronounce kubectl? Anybody pronounce it differently? Kubectl? Kubectl? I don't know. So it's done a few things there. You can see there, setup configure. It also adds things into the bash run configuration there. So it adds a bin directory, which is where it's put all these things. So now, of course, in order for the bash runtime configuration update to take place, we've got to start a new terminal. Okay, so let's open a terminal again. Now, of course, we've still got CF, but we've also now got YQ, and we've got JQ, and we've got all different things. JQ, there we go. And we've got Cube CTL. Okay, so we got all these different tools. So just remember that, you know, we get a wonderful dev space with App Studio, but you can enhance it with your own tools. Okay, you don't get root access, but you don't need root access for 99.9% of the things you want to do. So where are we on the thing? Oh, let me go back again. Open up a terminal, add tools to your dev space. Oh yes, okay, the final thing. Okay, set up the Keyma runtime configuration. Now, the dashboard on Keyma. Where's the? There it is. There's the dashboard. Okay, and we can do lots of things in Keyma with the dashboard, which is great. But of course, you know, this is hands-on SAP Dev. We don't use GUIs. We use the command line, of course, the most powerful thing ever. So, oh, Tanmoy, good question. kubectl, which is how I'm going to pronounce it, it's almost like the equivalent for Kubernetes as CF is for the CF command line for Cloud Foundry. So it's the command line tool you use to interact with a Kubernetes cluster, Keyma cluster. Okay, so yeah, kubectl equals CF, sort of. Okay, does that hopefully understand? Explain? Yes, kubectl is CLI way to interact with containers. Exactly, Napit. Yes, we are all about CLI. Now, we're not going to be using the what's it called, a dashboard, very often. But what we do want to use it for right now. But I think, Phil, you and I were talking briefly just before the live stream started about an awesome new tutorial from Marius, my colleague Marius, about how to do this in a more permanent fashion, but we'll come to that another time. In order to, let's go back to the instructions. In order to, you know, do something like, oh, kubectl get namespaces. Let's try that. Let's go in there and let's make this full screen. Well, yeah, let's make it almost full screen. Kubectl get namespaces. Okay, so it's basically saying I haven't got any configuration. What it's looking for is some configuration that will point it to the Kubernetes cluster that you want to interact with, but also more importantly, or as importantly, right? It's going to provide authentication details. Okay, so by default, obviously, because it can't find where it needs to go to, it's going to try and connect to a local cluster on localhost 8080. But of course, we haven't got one in this dev space, and we're not going to have one in this dev space, right? We're going to have one in our cloud platform trial account. Okay, so what we want to do is go up here, and this is also in the instructions, right? Go away, sort of highlight thing. Yeah, it shows there's a link to the tutorial here. Install the Kubernetes command line tool, and in the last two steps of that tutorial, it explains what we're about to do. Okay, you need this kube config. Okay, and where do we need the kube config? Well, because we're using our, because our development environment is in the cloud in our wonderful dev space provided by App Studio, we need the kube config in here, right? So let's do that. So up here in your profile thing, I'm going to say get kube config. Okay, and it's a file. It gets downloaded. It's a YAML file. I'm going to download it to my desktop, and it's downloaded. I'm not going to show it to you, obviously, because it's got some secrets in, but you want to do this as well. And like I say, Marius's tutorial, which was published this week, tells you an even better way of doing this, where the authentication details don't expire as quickly as these do. These expire every 8 hours, I think. But this will do us for now. So where is it? There we go. There, I don't need that screenshot anymore. Let's get rid of that screenshot. There is the kube. Oops. Sorry, wait a minute. There. Let's open up another thing. There we go. Let's just use that for now to get to this thing. There's a kube config. I'm going to just drag it into the Explorer. How cool is that? So let's go back. We don't need that anymore. There. So now we've got kube config. I'm not going to click on it because you'll see what's in it, but it's YAML. So now we've got a kube config and also the setup script. added this line here. Okay, so basically, if we say echo cube config, which is an environment variable that kubectl will look at to say, I'm looking for the cube configuration. Where is it? I'm going to see if there's a pointer to it in the cube config environment variable. And in this environment variable, put there by our App Studio setup script, it says, it's there, which is there, which is there. So now if we run that, we are now talking from our terminal in our dev space provided by App Studio in the cloud. We are talking to our Keyma cluster here. Okay, so that's nice. Got 5 minutes. 5 minutes. DJ is the Raspberry Pi whole what? Sorry. Mine Keyma is running, still being created. Yes. So the Keyma runtime, creation, give it up to an hour. Give it up to an hour. I've seen them take a lot shorter than that, but I've also seen them sometimes take an hour. So don't be disheartened. Have another drink, coffee, tea, beer, wine while you wait. kubectl pronunciation, yes, exactly. Yours, it will soon be done. Yes, Napi, think positive. That's very good. Napi, it depends. kubectl, kube control, Napi, that's a bit. Kube control. That's a good way to pronounce it. Napit is the RPi hole statistics we saw. RPi hole, pi hole. There's my pi hole there. Woo! 38,000 queries. Anyway, that's another story. So we've got that. Now that brings to an end. Where are we? Step 4. So you're drinking a nice Shiraz while you're waiting, so time is not a problem. That's the right attitude, Phil. So Napit says, is it like App Studio in a container talking to Keynote in another container? Yes. Yes, basically, everything's in the cloud. So the next thing we want to do, we've got we've got set up. We've got our fork of the SAP samples Techer 2020 repo. That fork is up to date. We've got a trial account. We can access the API hub. We can see in our preferences. We can access the API key for the SAP Business API Hub. We've got our development environment set up. It's a dev space in App Studio. We've got tools in there. We've got a kube config that allows us to talk to our Keyma cluster. That's also in our SAP Cloud Platform trial account now. So we're now all set up, ready to start looking at the first and probably, I'm going to say the most important component, the most important because it's the central component that glues everything together, the message bus. Okay, this is step 5 in this. So basically that's this thing here. So there's the message bus. We're going to set that up next. In fact, we've got 2 minutes. It doesn't take very long. But I think we'll wait. Rather than rush it, we'll wait because let's enjoy the juiciness of the information that we can extract from this set of instructions. Because we can set the message bus up. What we've got for you here is you can set it up in the cockpit. Do we want to do that? No. We want to set it on the command line. Okay, and we can set it up the command line manually. Or we can use a script and we can examine that script as well. Where is the script? Well, in the, where is it? In the message bus directory, we've got this service setup. Okay. So yeah, let's leave that till next time and we'll set up the message bus and enjoy all the details of looking into what has been set up and why and how. So that's it. It's 8:59, 1 minute to go. Thank you so much for joining and thanks for the interaction on the chat. It's always great. Any final questions? Why only Keyma? Are there any other runtimes that can be used? Well, on SAP Cloud Platform trial accounts, we get access to a Keyma cluster. We can have access to Cloud Foundry. And of course, there's the ABAP environment as well, which is the environment upon which The charity component runs. That's a subject for another time. So there's all sorts of different environments. Great. Okay. So yes, have a great rest of Friday. Have a great weekend. Can't think of the word. Stay safe. Get your stuff set up, as Napit says. And I'll see you next time. It might not be next week, but I'll see you next time. Bye for now.